The sound of keys jingling filled the air as Keanu Reeves handed them to Sarah, a single mother frozen in disbelief. Her eyes darted between the Hollywood star and the brand new car he'd just purchased for her. As Sarah's trembling hand closed around the keys, Keanu leaned in close, his voice low and urgent. The words he whispered next caused her to collapse into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. What had Keanu said, and how would this unexpected encounter forever alter the course of this family's future? Keanu Reeves stepped into the bustling car dealership, his presence understated yet magnetic. Dressed in a simple black t-shirt and jeans, he moved with quiet purpose, scanning the gleaming vehicles. As his hand glided over a sleek sports car, a strained voice caught his attention. "Please, there must be something in my price range. My kids need me to get to work." Keanu turned to see a young woman at the customer service desk, defeat written in every line of her body. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we don't have anything reliable in that price range," the salesman said regretfully. Keanu's fingers drummed against the car's metal surface, his mind racing. The woman's plight stirred something deep within him. Should he intervene or walk away? "I don't know what I'm going to do. We can't keep relying on the bus," the woman's voice cracked. In that moment, Keanu saw a mother fighting for her family's future. He saw late-night bus rides, children waiting anxiously, missed opportunities, and daily struggles. Like a leaf carried by a sudden gust, Keanu found himself beside the woman. "Excuse me, I couldn't help overhearing. Maybe I can help." They turned, eyes widening in recognition. "Mr. Reeves?" the salesman stammered. Keanu nodded, focusing on the woman. "Tell me about your situation. What kind of car do you need?" "I'm Sarah, a single mom with 2 kids," she began. "I work 2 jobs, but our old car broke down last month. Without reliable transportation, I might lose one of my jobs. The bus schedules don't always line up." Keanu listened intently as Sarah explained her struggle to save for a down payment. "What about that one?" Keanu asked, pointing to a modest sedan. The salesman described the car, perfect for a small family but beyond Sarah's budget. "Would that car work for you and your kids?" Keanu asked Sarah. She nodded, longing in her eyes. "It would be perfect, but..." Keanu reached for his wallet. "I'd like to buy this car for Sarah," he said simply. The dealership erupted into activity. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. "I can't accept this," she whispered. Keanu placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You can, and you will. Your kids need their mom, and you need this car. Sometimes the universe puts us in the right place at the right time to help each other out." As the keys were handed over, Sarah hugged Keanu tightly, her thank yous seeming inadequate for the magnitude of his gesture. Keanu Reeves approached the struggling mother and the salesman, his heart pounding with each step. The dealership floor seemed to hold its breath, awaiting the moment that could change lives forever. Keanu cleared his throat, drawing surprised looks. The mother's eyes widened, a mix of confusion and hope flickering across her face. "I couldn't help but overhear," Keanu began, his voice low and steady. "I'd like to help." The mother blinked rapidly, her mind struggling to process. "I'm sorry, what?" she stammered, barely above a whisper. Keanu turned to the salesman, his gaze determined. "What's the most reliable family car you have on the lot?" The salesman glanced between them, trying to gauge the situation. "We have a new model SUV that's perfect for families, but..." "Show it to us, please," Keanu interrupted, polite but firm. As they walked, the mother's steps faltered. "I don't understand. Who are you?" Keanu's response was simple yet transformative. "Someone who wants to help, if you'll let me." They arrived at a gleaming SUV. The salesman, regaining composure, launched into his pitch. "This model is top-rated for safety with plenty of space for growing families. Excellent fuel economy, low maintenance costs." Keanu nodded, his eyes darting to the mother. She stood there, arms wrapped tightly around herself, as if trying to hold herself together. "What do you think?" Keanu asked gently. "Would this work for you and your kids?" The mother's eyes welled up. "It's perfect, but I can't possibly..." Keanu silenced her protests with a raised hand. "You can, and you will. If you're comfortable accepting it, I'd like to purchase this car for you." The salesman's jaw dropped. The mother covered her mouth, a small sob escaping her lips. "Why?" she managed to ask, her voice choked with emotion. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" Keanu's expression softened. "Because sometimes we all need a little help, and if we have the means to make someone's life easier, why shouldn't we?" The mother's tears flowed freely now, her body shaking. Keanu placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Let's go inside and take care of the paperwork. Then you can drive your new car home to your kids. Inside the office, Keanu sat next to the mother, his presence a calming force as they navigated the sea of paperwork. Her hand shook as she signed her name, making her new ownership official. She looked up at Keanu, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I don't know how I can ever thank you enough," she whispered. Keanu smiled warmly. "Seeing you drive off in that car, knowing it will make your life a little easier, that's all the thanks I need." As the final papers were signed and the keys were handed over, the mother's tears flowed freely. She hugged Keanu tightly, whispering thank yous that seemed inadequate for the magnitude of his gesture. Sarah's fingers trembled as she clutched the keys to her new SUV, her eyes darting between Keanu and the gleaming vehicle. The actor's expression hinted at something more, a flicker of anticipation dancing across his features. What unexpected offer was about to unfold that would leave this single mother speechless? The showroom lights cast a warm glow over the small group, highlighting the tears that had begun to form in Sarah's eyes. She turned the keys over in her hand, their weight a tangible reminder of the surreal moment she found herself in. Keanu's gaze remained fixed on her, his eyes filled with a mix of compassion and determination. I don't know how to thank you," Sarah stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Keanu's response was gentle, his tone reassuring. "Your gratitude is more than enough. But there's something else I'd like to do for you and your family." The air in the showroom seemed to thicken with anticipation. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, her mind racing to comprehend what more this Hollywood star could possibly offer. Keanu reached into his pocket, pulling out a small, nondescript envelope. "A new car is a wonderful gift, but it comes with its own set of responsibilities," he explained softly. "Insurance, maintenance, fuel, these costs can add up quickly, especially for someone in your situation." Sarah's eyes widened as understanding began to dawn. The envelope seemed to hover between them, a bridge connecting two worlds. "Inside this envelope is a check," Keanu continued. "It's enough to cover a year's worth of insurance, regular maintenance, and fuel for your new SUV. I want you to be able to focus on your family and your work without worrying about these additional expenses." Sarah's hand shook as she reached out to accept it, her fingers brushing against Keanu's. The simple touch grounded her, making the moment feel real in a way that nothing else had. "Mr. Reeves, this is too much," Sarah whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Keanu's eyes crinkled at the corners, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Consider it an investment in your family's future. Sometimes we all need a little help to get back on our feet." The salesman, who had been watching the exchange with growing amazement, finally found his voice. "Mr. Reeves, I've been in this business for 20 years and I've never seen anything like this. You're changing lives here, sir." Keanu turned to the salesman, his expression thoughtful. "We all have the power to make a difference, even in small ways. Sometimes it just takes a moment of recognizing another person's struggle and deciding to help." Sarah clutched the envelope to her chest, her tears flowing freely now. The enormity of what had just happened washed over her in waves. Not only had this kind stranger gifted her a vehicle that would ensure she could keep her jobs and provide for her children, but he had also removed the financial burden that often comes with such a gift. "My kids," Sarah began, her voice wavering. "They're going to have a real Christmas this year. We can visit my mom without worrying about the car breaking down. I can take them to the park, to school events. You've given us our lives back." Keanu placed a gentle hand on Sarah's shoulder, his touch conveying understanding and support. "That's all the thanks I need. Just promise me you'll pay it forward when you can, in whatever way feels right to you." The showroom fell silent, as the weight of the moment settled over everyone present. In this ordinary car dealership, on an ordinary day, something extraordinary had occurred, a reminder of the profound impact one person's kindness can have on another's life. As Sarah composed herself, wiping away tears with the back of her hand, Keanu gestured towards the SUV. "Why don't we take it for a quick spin? I'd love to see you behind the wheel of your new car." Sarah nodded, a smile breaking through her tears. As they walked towards the vehicle, the salesman hurried ahead to open the doors, still shaking his head in disbelief at what he had witnessed. As Sarah slid into the driver's seat of her new SUV, the showroom hummed with electric energy. Heads turned, fingers pointed, and whispers rippled through the crowd like a stone dropped in still water. The air crackled with the sense that something extraordinary was unfolding. A young sales associate approached Sarah, her eyes wide with wonder. "Is it true?" she whispered. "Did Keanu Reeves really just buy you this car?" Sarah nodded, her hands gripping the steering wheel. "I don't know how I'll ever repay him," she managed, her voice thick with emotion. The associate's face softened. "Maybe you're meant to pay it forward someday." As the words sank in, Sarah's eyes welled up. The concept of paying it forward had always seemed like a luxury for others, not for someone struggling to keep a roof over her children's heads. But now, sitting in this gift beyond her wildest dreams, a spark of possibility ignited within her. Across the showroom, a crowd gathered around Keanu. Some approached with autograph books, others simply stood nearby, basking in the glow of his kindness. Keanu signed what was thrust before him, but his eyes kept darting back to Sarah, ensuring she was okay amidst the growing commotion. A middle-aged couple pushed through the throng. "Mr. Reeves," the woman said, her voice steady despite her fidgeting hands, "you've inspired us. We want to help someone too." Her husband nodded. "We came to upgrade our car, but after seeing what you did, well, our old one has a few more miles left in it." As they spoke, the energy in the room shifted again. It was as if Keanu's act had cracked open a dam, releasing a flood of generosity that had been lying dormant in the hearts of those present. One by one, people approached the sales staff. "Is there anyone else here who needs help? What about that young family I saw earlier? Could we pool our resources?" The dealership manager, overwhelmed by the sudden outpouring of goodwill, hurried from group to group, coordinating efforts and calling in extra staff. As the afternoon wore on, the ripple effect of Keanu's kindness became impossible to ignore. A young couple, hesitantly eyeing used compact cars, found themselves the surprised recipients of a practically new minivan, courtesy of strangers who had banded together. An elderly woman who had come for a repair estimate on her ancient sedan, left with tears of joy and keys to a reliable, fuel-efficient model. By sunset, 3 more families drove home in new cars, each one a testament to the power of a single act of kindness to ignite a chain reaction of generosity. Sarah watched it all unfold with wonder. The saleswoman's words echoed in her mind, "Pay it forward." As she observed strangers helping strangers, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream of a future where she, too, might help someone else. Keanu slipped away quietly once the paperwork was finalized, leaving behind a legacy far greater than a single act of charity. His presence lingered in the animated conversations, the tearful hugs, and the profound sense of community that had blossomed in this most unlikely of places. The dealership hummed with newfound energy, a ripple of excitement coursing through the crowd. Keanu Reeves, however, stood apart from the jubilant atmosphere. His eyes, intense and focused, remained fixed on Sarah as she clutched the keys to her new SUV. The weight of the moment hung in the air, thick with anticipation. As Sarah took a tentative step towards her gleaming new vehicle, Keanu's hand dipped into his pocket. The crowd held its breath. An envelope. With careful precision, he extracted the small white rectangle, its crisp edges a stark contrast to the whirlwind of emotions swirling around them. "There's one more thing," Keanu said, his voice barely above a whisper. "This is for your family." Sarah's hands trembled as she reached for the envelope. The paper crinkled under her fingers, each sound amplified in the hushed space. She fumbled with the seal, her heart pounding. As she unfolded the contents, her eyes widened and a sharp gasp escaped her lips. Inside was a check. The amount printed on it made Sarah's vision blur, her mind reeling as she tried to process the magnitude of what she was seeing. It was a sum that spoke of security, of breathing room, of possibilities she had long since abandoned. Keanu's eyes were kind but serious as he watched her reaction. "For insurance, maintenance, and anything else you might need," he explained softly. The simplicity of his words belied the profound impact they carried. The weight of it all suddenly became too much. Sarah's legs buckled beneath her, but before she could fall, Keanu's hand was there, steady and strong, catching her arm and keeping her upright. "Why?" The question tumbled from Sarah's lips, choked with emotion. Keanu leaned in close, his response meant only for her ears. "Because every child deserves a parent who can chase their dreams," he said, his voice low and sincere. Tears flowed freely down Sarah's cheeks, silent sobs racking her body. She wasn't alone in her emotion. All around the showroom, onlookers wiped at their eyes, moved by the scene unfolding before them. The air was thick with shared empathy, a collective understanding of the profound change taking place in one family's life. As Keanu gently guided Sarah towards her new SUV, the crowd parted, creating a path. Their faces were a mix of awe and admiration, not just for the celebrity in their midst, but for the raw humanity on display. This wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about one person reaching out to lift another. Sarah's fingers traced the smooth curves of the car door, still struggling to believe it was real. As she settled into the driver's seat, the leather cool against her skin, a quiet determination settled over her features. In that moment, surrounded by the scent of new car and possibility, she made a silent vow. This gift, this extraordinary act of kindness, would be the key unlocking a future she had once thought impossible. The engine purred to life, a sound of promise and potential. As Sarah prepared to drive away, her eyes met Keanu's one last time. No words were exchanged, but volumes were spoken in that glance: gratitude, hope, and a shared understanding of the ripples this day would create. The SUV's taillights winked out of sight, leaving behind a changed dealership and a changed family. But what about the man who set it all in motion? As a reporter approached, pen poised, the real story was just beginning to unfold. Keanu Reeves stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the horizon where Sarah's new vehicle had disappeared. The bustling sounds of the dealership faded into the background, replaced by a contemplative silence. His face, usually an enigma to the public, betrayed a mix of emotions: relief, satisfaction, and something deeper, more introspective. The reporter, sensing a rare moment of vulnerability, stepped forward. "Mr. Reeves," she began, her voice cutting through Keanu's reverie. "Why did you do this?" Keanu's gaze remained distant for a long moment before he turned to face the reporter. His eyes, often described as soulful, seemed to carry the weight of his decision. "Because I could," he said simply, his voice low and measured, "and because she needed it more than I need the money." The reporter's pen scratched furiously across her notepad, capturing every word. Keanu continued, his tone thoughtful. "We all have moments where we can make a difference. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small, but it's always important." The crowd around them had grown, drawn by the presence of the Hollywood star and the palpable atmosphere of something extraordinary. They listened intently, many nodding in agreement with Keanu's words. "But surely this will encourage others to ask you for help. Aren't you worried about that?" the reporter pressed. A small smile played at the corners of Keanu's mouth. He looked around at the faces watching him. "If more people ask for help," he said slowly, "maybe that means more people will give help too." His words sent a ripple through the crowd. People exchanged glances, some with tears in their eyes, others with looks of dawning realization. In that moment, Keanu had transformed from a distant celebrity into a teacher, imparting a lesson in human kindness. As the implications of his statement settled, Keanu's phone buzzed. He read the message, a genuine smile spreading across his face. "It's from Sarah," he said. "She says her kids think I'm their real-life superhero." Keanu's smile faded into a more contemplative expression. "But that's not what this is about," he said softly. "It's about realizing we all have the power to be heroes in our own way." He pocketed his phone and looked around at the dealership. Sometimes, he mused, the most heroic acts happen off-screen, in the quiet moments of everyday life. As Keanu prepared to leave, the crowd parted respectfully. The reporter called out one last question. "How has this act of kindness affected you, Mr. Reeves?" Keanu paused, turning back. His eyes seemed to look beyond the crowd, to something only he could see. "It's reinforced my belief," he said slowly, "in the power of simple human kindness. We're all connected, all part of the same story, and every act of kindness, no matter how small, writes a new chapter in that story." With those words, Keanu nodded a goodbye and walked away, leaving behind a group of people forever changed by what they had witnessed. The reporter looked down at her notes, realizing she had captured not just a celebrity sighting, but a profound lesson in humanity. The bustling car dealership fell silent as Keanu Reeves' final act of kindness unfolded. Sarah clutched her new keys, her eyes brimming with tears. The air crackled with possibility, as if reality itself had shifted. Witnesses stood transfixed, their own worries forgotten. Sarah's radiant joy spread like wildfire, igniting a spark of hope in every heart. As she drove away, onlookers remained, lost in thought. The seed of an idea took root. What if they too could be heroes? The dealership hummed with newfound energy, each person contemplating how a simple act of kindness could transform lives.